Okay, all yours, Rob.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, fellow Toastmasters, and any guests that are here. How many of you are salespeople? Raise your hands. That was a trick question. You're all salespeople. Why do I say that? Because you're all selling yourself in some capacity or whatever. You're selling yourself to your spouses, your companies, your own business. Everything about what you do revolves around sales and meeting a need, your needs or their needs. So what do I mean by the radio stations of life? Well, this is part of a speech that I did, one of my very first speeches that I did many years ago. I've been a Toastmaster for about 18 years now. And the first radio station, most of you will probably know, it's WIIFM, which stands for, what's in it for me? Why am I here? You want to answer that question for anybody who's going to come as a guest, as well as for any members. You want to entice them to continue to maintain the club in the club, but you want to know, why are they there? Why should I attend your club in particular? What makes your club so much better than other clubs? And why at this time? So we muddled around. We were struggling, as Bram said. We were at 9 or 10 members back before Christmas. And there were various reasons for it. Some of which is COVID, some of which is other reasons. Some people are just sick of Zoom. But we made a decision. We got together as an executive and I proposed, why don't we change the time? We meet on Saturdays. It used to be from 1 to 2:30. And I proposed, why don't we change to 11 to 12:30? Give it a shot, because it'll give people more time to do other things and they'll have more of the day. And they can still get up early or later if they want, pardon me, and they still can do stuff after. That was one of the decisions that were made, and I think has become a big reason why our membership has improved. The other big reason was we started to market it more. And with the help of our executive, Jen C., who's our president, and Marina, I'm thinking of Marina Bar, Marina Kachuk, who is our VP of PR, along with Miliana and Dimitra, our coach, we all got together and said, let's get our marketing program going. So we started to get more on social media. We got into LinkedIn a little bit more. We have a Facebook page, and we beefed up our website and got it more, I'll say, better looking. It needs some work, but better and more up to date. And I think these factors help as well. And I think a combination of all of those things works together to help attract more people. For example, I helped to get a couple of people from LinkedIn. I went on LinkedIn and I posted some stuff and I said, you know, this is, why not come to our club? You can get better this, do better communication, better leadership, and at a fraction of the cost of what you paid to do it somewhere else. And we have gotten a couple members that way, and I'm going to continue to do that. So what's in it for me? Why should they attend? They're going to attend because they're going to get great fellowship. They're going to get a family-oriented atmosphere. They're going to get people that work together to our common goal. And we're all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to enhance our communication, leadership, presentation skills, networking, and so on. So when you have people all going together to meet a common goal, people want to be a part of that. They want that family. And that's what we bring in our club. Now, I mentioned about executives. I think it's important that you have to have a committed executive. You have to have somebody, you have to have people that are committed to the job. Our president is, all of our executives are. And I think when we work together and we're committed, then it's going to be a lot better, more effective run club. And the members will see that. And I think that's been a big plus as well, is that everybody is treated as a family. They're all treated as people, members of a family. It's not just you're a member, you come to the club, that's it. You're a member of our family. We are all here to serve you. And that's when I send my email out to a guest the next day. I always tell them we're here to serve you. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I have to give Bram kudos to this. When I went to a training, district training, it struck a chord to me when he said, why not invite the members to join right away? And I thought to myself, yeah, why not? We weren't doing that. We were saying, you know, come, why don't you come next week as a guest? You can come up to 3 times. No more of that. I don't, unless they mention it, I don't tell them that. I say, you can come, you come as a, you know, you came as a guest. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I send them an email and say, this is what you do to join the club. This is what you would, you know, this is what you pay. You send in an application, and this is what you do, an e-transfer, and that's how you get on board. If you have any questions, give me a call. I'm always here to just help you. But I don't mention about the guest part of coming more than once, because that just leaves the door open that they can postpone a decision. If they're ready to join and they feel good, come on board. Don't wait. It's better to close them now than to wait. So that tip from Ron really struck it home. And then we have gone, like Drum said, amazingly, we've gone up to 27 members. Now we're going to lose some. That's normal for Toastmasters. I think we've all experienced that due to attrition or whatever the reasons. Okay. But right now we're almost at, or we're going to be at 22 or 23 members, which is phenomenal for us. We're usually struggling around 10 to 15. Any questions on WIIFM? Okay, this other radio station, you may not know what it is. MMFG AM. Make me feel good about myself. That's the other radio station that I subscribe to. You want to reinforce that they've made a good decision coming to your club, and that you've reinforced, you know, that their time and effort to come. It's a good decision. Tell them they've done a great job. We're going to be here to help you and support you in your endeavors and what you want. Always welcome them at the beginning of the meeting. Try and get them to come to the meeting earlier so that you can introduce them to the rest of the group. Engage them, get them involved in table topics at the meeting. Most people will say fine. Some may not, but that's fine. Most will be okay with it. And then invite them at the end to join. Now, they might say, well, we want to think about it, or we want to come another time. No problem, fine. But get their feedback at the end of the meeting. Find out what they liked. Maybe they'll mention something they didn't like, maybe they won't. And hopefully, if they enjoyed the meeting, they'd be willing to come back. Why not? We've given them so much to offer at a very low cost. Why wouldn't they, right? Be more assertive, be deliberate, be more direct. What else can I say? Yeah, invite them to join, like I said before. But it's very important you do follow up. Like I always follow up the next day and tell them, you know, thank you for coming. It was a pleasure meeting you. We hope you enjoyed it. If you're interested in joining, here's what you do. Put an application out there, include, you know, the fact that they can get a mentor. They get a seasoned mentor in the club. They'll also get, of course, we know the magazine every month when they join, and so on and so forth. So build it up. Tell them what they're going to get. Again, what's in it for me. But again, reinforce the fact they made a good decision. It was good that they came. We want them to come back, right? We want them to come back. Make me feel good about myself. That's the other radio station. So I think those are the two key things I call radio stations of life that you need, that everybody needs. And I think if you do that, you play those radio stations, you're going to get more members, you're going to get more satisfied guests and turn them into members, in my opinion, because we've seen it happen. And I think it's not a miracle recipe. I think it's just something that you can replicate in any club. It's just a matter of doing it. and you have to be committed to doing it. Any questions?
Please raise your electronic hand if you want to ask a question. But here's what Rob was just saying is that, or some of you might be thinking that it's being pushy when they come the first time around and you ask for the sale. I don't think it's being pushy if you know how to ask. It is not, please join, here's the membership form. It's not aggressive at all. And Rob has learned that, and I have been using that for many years both in physical and online as well. And I tend to draw a lot of people because I'm very soft, empathetic. I have that best interest at my heart. When I run a quality meeting and the meeting starts on time, ends on time, everybody knows their role, and it's a high quality meeting, then I'm not afraid to ask the person, hey, you came here for Toastmasters to learn public speaking, presentation. We ran a quality meeting. You saw what was happening. So you would want to join this club. And I'm pretty confident that I will be able to serve them. So that when you have that conviction and confidence that you'll be able to serve anybody who walks through your doors, because you have all the tools and all the mentors and the club officers and so on already, then you can speak with confidence, right? And so when that confidence comes through your voice to the guest who's there, you can ask them the first time around, about and close the sale, rather than say, come 3 times in order when you're like treading around eggshells, and so that's not really necessary. So Rob, this is your show, really. You don't have to put up your hand.
I wanted to
go ahead and.
Yeah, I forgot one other thing, which I'd be amiss if I didn't bring it up, and that is one thing that our president Jen has really done a great job too, is bringing in a training session every week or every second week. This is something that I wasn't sure if it would work. We'd have time, but it's worked, and it's worked very well. So we have an education session, I'll call it, on a particular topic, whether it's one week we had on storytelling, we had a workshop, which is great. One week we have it on mentoring. Another week we have it on the use of vocal progression, intonation, and so on. All these different tips that we can give beyond just the program, that we can give the members to provide them even more information than they already are getting. And I think this is another thing that distinguishes, I'll say for now, our club from some others. I mean, other clubs probably are doing it, but not everybody does. Mm-hmm. And combine that with, I guess, Saturday and this time, for now, it's working.
And that's an important point as well, is when you have events where you are actually teaching something, when guests come to your meeting and they say that they're actually learning something more than they would see at another club or elsewhere. I mean, everybody's a nomad these days, right? Somebody from Japan will suddenly appear, and they have, from New Zealand we have people, and from Australia we have people. They wake up at midnight to come to our clubs sometimes. Don't know why, but they do. So and some of them have even joined District 86 from Australia, and they are waking up at 12 to join. So if they see there's value, which is what Rob is saying, is all those training sessions provide value. And when you're providing value, people will say, I am learning something, rather than they are just doing speeches, evaluation, table topics. But what is the mechanics behind it? So then they see that you're actually training on the mechanics as well. And so that's very useful. I think that's what it is, Rob, right? Would you say? Or okay, he's nodding his head. Okay.
Yes, right. Definitely.
Hey, Rob, Bob Brown from Kitchener, French Club. You said you got a couple from LinkedIn, and yes. You mentioned you started with Facebook. Did you just start Facebook around Christmas?
No, it's been ongoing. Facebook has been a little bit harder to do, and we just got it finished recently. LinkedIn's been ongoing for me. I do use LinkedIn for other reasons, but it's been a kind of ongoing LinkedIn. And I just look for, in LinkedIn, I look for people that have some interest in Toastmasters, whether it be directly mentioning it or just saying public speaking or wanting to improve my presentation skills. There's different subtle hints that come out. And then I basically respond to them. If you're interested in learning more about how to enhance this, email me or call me.
And where is your club? Where are you? Like how big a population?
We're in Mississauga, Ontario.
Okay.
Right now we're meeting online. We used to meet at a church 2 years ago. We may go back to that. We're not sure yet, but we meet Saturdays 11 to 12:30.
Okay,
And
well,
you're welcome to come.
yeah, that's an incredible increase. And like people call you on Facebook, they notify you and say you're interested, or do your members bring people? Where are they coming?
Well, it's a variety. We are connected with Google too, and we get a number of people coming through Google. So we have an info at our email address, and some people send an email, and the email's connected to my email. Or there's a phone number there, and I do get the odd phone call from people, and then I deal with it. And when I do respond to it, I respond to it fairly quickly. I don't let it drag, so that the people say, hey, these guys know what they're doing. They're interested in me. I don't let it sit. I respond to it fairly quickly.
Yeah,
Rob, do you have a website? Before you go on, just a quick question, but this may throw some light on that. Do you have a website, Rob?
Soar to Excellence Toastmaster.ca.
Oh, great. So see, they have a website, and you have a search engine optimized, right? So you got the right wording.
I believe so.
Mississauga,
Yes.
perhaps, you know,
Yeah.
you probably have some Mississauga here we meet, the right kind of wording. Because I was talking to Marina, your VP of PR. I wish she was here. And she said she had done some optimization that way, the right
Yes.
sort of wording, so that when people are searching for some public speaking in Mississauga, you know, your probably shows up somewhere higher up.
Hopefully, yes. I think,
That's-
I believe
that's what
so.
it is.
I
Okay.
believe so.
Yeah, so that would be another strategy for those of you who have a website, or if you're on Free Toast Host, is much easier than on
Yeah.
what is it called, Easy Speak. Free Toast Host
Correct.
is more like a website. Easy Speak is more of a scheduling system. It really isn't quite
Correct.
a website. So
No.
yeah, so
Rob,
that would be another one. Sorry, Bob, go ahead, Bob.
Rob, another question. A lot of people talk about Meetup bringing in people. Are you involved with that with your club?
No, we were thinking about it, but we found that Meetup tends to do is a bit too generic for us. So we decided not to. It kind of populates everybody's sessions and not just ours. So we thought for the amount of investment, and there's a cost to it, we decided against it.
Okay.
That doesn't mean it won't work for you, but it just didn't seem right for us.
Thank you.
No worries. Welcome.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, any other last question before we move on to our keynote speaker and our special guest, all the way from international headquarters?
Amazing.
Okay, good. I don't see any hands up. So
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
thank you, Rob. That was very much appreciated here with as well. I'm trying to find the right background here. Oh, there. Oh, it doesn't matter anyways. Okay. All right. So I'm the techie, and I'm doing everything at the same time. I'm just one person because it's very informal, so don't worry. But here we go. Our next speaker, of course, is a distinguished Toastmaster, Matt Kinsey, international president-elect this year, and so he will be our international president next year. And of course, we are in Nashville. You'll see the grad ceremony where he will be put into office, and he's going to talk to us about why you're worried about retention. And I think he's already got his slides on, and we can see that. So thank you very much, Matt Kinsey. I don't know how else to introduce you. So if there's anything else you need to add to what I've said, please go ahead. And over to you.
We're just going to be, informal tonight, and this is going to be more of a conversation than a keynote. So ask your questions. I may not see them in chat, so but type them in chat. Bram will watch for them to make sure I get them. But you can also, there'll be times to unmute yourself and talk. But really, at this time of renewal, and in this time where we're really focused on membership for the next 3 months, it seems like we focus more on membership the last 3 months of the year than any other time of the year, because we're trying to get those members to become distinguished and get those members for the district to be distinguished, or the area or the division. But why are you worried about retention? And this is a serious question. So is retention a problem?
Yes,
Okay, why is retention a problem, Rob?
because there's always other venues, other things out there that people can attract their attention, whether it be school, whether it be moving. There's all kinds of reasons out there that they may have to jump ship for whatever reason. One guy in our club, for example, joined the Army.
Mhm.
Can't do much about that.
Anybody else want to jump in here?
I think you want to retain your members because they are you're guaranteed of having your numbers, right? If you retain them, but if you lose them, that's when you start dropping in your numbers. So, and I think retention also displays like a successful club. So if you retain your members, you come across as successful.
Okay. Does anybody want to say retention is not a problem?
No.
I don't think that retention's a problem.
Okay, why?
Well, it seems to me what comes first is the program. In other words, if you have a great program that benefits people, they will stay. You're not going to get people to stay and then build a great program.
Have you seen my presentation before?
No, I haven't, but it just makes sense, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
What I've
Because
experienced is people have different priorities in life. You've got to answer, why should I stay?
Mm-hmm.
Ahead of time.
And I'll tell you, most people will say retention's a problem, but the question I ask is a follow-up, or is retention a symptom?
Yeah.
It's not the problem. This is what comes from short-term thinking and trying to focus on the surface layer rather than focusing on what's below that. So what Bram didn't tell you is I'm an IT professional. Okay, now I'm an IT professional with a personality. All right, so I'm not the guy you lock in the back door and slide pizza under the door. Okay, I've known those guys and they're great. You want them on your team because they can solve any problem. But I own my own business as a managed service provider, and essentially we are the IT department. And we have so many times where people will focus just on the surface of the issue. And they'll say, oh, well, this is what the problem is. No, that's not what the problem is. That's how the problem is presenting itself. It's the symptom. It's like when you go to the doctor. Is your problem the fever, or is it the infection causing the fever? The fever points to the fact that there's probably an infection somewhere. Okay, then we have to figure out where it is. But if we just treat the fever, we're not going to solve the problem. So I think retention it's a symptom. So why do members leave? So why do you think members leave? And we'll go to the survey results in a minute. And Rob talked about a couple of reasons. A couple of you have talked about some reasons, but why do you think members leave? Anything that hasn't been brought up yet? Bram, any ideas from you?
Well, the number one thing is quality of the meeting. I
Okay.
think that is the top reason why people don't stay. And the other thing is, of course, things that happen in the club that when two members are not agreeing with each other, and it flows into the whole club.
Okay. Anne just did something brilliant. She used her virtual hand and she popped right to the top of my screen so I could see her. So if you go in the reactions and use your virtual hand, I will be sure to see you. So Anne.
I'm going to say engagement,
Okay.
because if they're not engaged in your meeting, that means they're not getting anything out of it.
Mhm.
And if they start to lose interest, then the thoughts of why am I here
Yeah.
come into their head.
All right. Gail, anything you want to add? I can't hear you.
Sometimes I think that some clubs are so desperate to try and grow their club that they lose focus on their actual members in quest to get new members.
And I love this when people are reading ahead in my slides. All right. Well, here's what the surveys say. So Toastmasters does exit surveys twice a year. We interview, just like any other survey, we interview a percentage of the people who left. And here's what they tell us. All right. So these are the top four. New interest or commitment. So some of you talked about that. sports clubs, a new girlfriend, a new job, got into Taekwondo, whatever that other interest or commitment is that is now taking time that they were using for Toastmasters. Moved or job transfer, okay? Now, people can transfer, and with the online and hybrid club environments that many of us are still meeting in, moving is not an excuse to stop going to your club anymore, okay? But a job transfer might be. Personal health, work, family, that's kind of a, this group, those are the personal things that people really don't want to talk about. Their health is bad, their work commitments have changed, their wife thinks you're spending too much time with Toastmasters. I'm fortunate, my wife is just as involved as I am, so I never have that issue. But I was talking to a member the other day who he had to step down from his positions because his wife's like, what is that Toastmasters thing you're going? Why are you spending so much time there? And a general time constraints is listed as the number one. Now, here's the thing I will tell you. People lie. And on exit surveys, people really lie. Now, notice what's not on here is our educational program. It's not on here. All right. Yet I get phone calls, I get emails, I get conversations all the time where people say, oh, people are leaving because of our educational program. We don't like it. The numbers don't back that up. And the reason I know that is because when I talked to a member and he told me, oh, I'm leaving my club. And I was like, why? And he said, well, my club presidents are real. And then he kind of used some unprofessional language about the club president, the way the club president was running the meeting. I said, okay, well, so what did you tell the club about why you left? He said, oh, I told him I left because of pathways, because it was the easy thing to blame. He didn't want to confront the issue. So some of those other reasons that people leave are unresolved conflict. And it may be the largest reason people leave. Now, conflict in and of itself is not bad, but it's conflict that wastes time. It's conflict that's ego-based. It's conflict that is unresolved and unaddressed that leaves people leave. And I'll share a story with you. We had a club at a university down here in Florida near where I live. Every year, the club would get up to 45 or 50 members during the term. And then at renewal, they'd be back down to 8 to 10 to 12 members. And this was a pattern that had gone on for about 3 years. And the area director goes and does a visit, and he calls me, he goes, I know what the problem is. I go, what? He goes, problem's the club president. I said, what do you mean? He goes, they get people to join, and anytime the club gets too long, she sends people away and she drives them out so that she can keep control over what's going on. Well, we were eventually able to get her to not renew. The club has been over 30 members consistently ever since. Okay, and I kind of gave him permission to kind of, make her life a little difficult, not unprofessional, but a little difficult, just be constantly questioning her. And she finally like, I don't have time for this. Oh, really? We're sorry to hear that. Sometimes people are a problem in the club, and club members, most of you don't realize in your club constitution or policies, it says clubs are responsible for the behavior of their members. Not Toastmasters International, not Brahm as the club growth director, not the area director. The clubs have to deal with behavioral issues. So that is an unspoken reason why many people leave Toastmasters. The things that aren't on here, these are the things that I think we can't control. Okay, most of these things here are things that we can't control. Somebody's health, we can't control. So there's a natural non-renewal rate. And I prefer using the word renewal instead of retention. I just think it's more positive. There's a natural rate that we can never exceed over the long term. And I don't know that we know what it is. Some other organizations know what that rate is, but it's probably in the 75 to 80%. We're going to lose 20 to 25% of our members, even if we're absolutely perfect in everything we do. That's just reality. But here's the things that concern me. Were you contacted for renewal? 50 7% approximately said yes, but 43% said no one in the club contacted them for renewal. Now, that looks terrible. I'm going to assume that there's a percentage of these where the person had made it very clear they weren't going to renew, so the club didn't reach out to them and try to convince them. And I get that. Okay, but I don't think it's 43%. What's really interesting on this number is last October, Toastmasters renewed 55% of its members. And we're contacting 57. I don't know if there's any correlation there, but it was just one of those weird parallels in numbers that you see the relationship and you just don't know if it's causation or just, you know, pure chance. But I thought it was just an interesting parallel. But here's the number that I really want you to focus on, because this is where our opportunity is. When members were asked, is there something that could have been done to convince you to stay? 2/3 approximately said no, they made up their decision, nothing you can do. But almost 1 out of 3 members who leave say there's something that someone could have done to convince them to stay. Now, yes, some of these are probably unreasonable demands. Okay, free membership. I'll stay if you give me free membership. No, we can't do that. Okay. You know, oh, I'll stay if these 3 people quit. Well, I'd rather have 3 than 1. Okay. You know, but there's a lot that could have been done to convince people to stay. And if we could recapture just half of this number, we would have a retention number of about 70% organizationally. That's huge. The amount of members that growth brings to, the amount of revenue so that we can provide more service to our members that grows to, it is outstanding. This is the opportunity. What can be done to convince somebody to stay? Now, Rob brought up something that convinced people to stay in his club, which was changing the time. And sometimes it could be as easy as that. You know, sometimes it's changing the location. But I'll tell you, the location, we're spoiled here in the West. All right, we're really spoiled. Our past international president, Mike Storkey, visited a club in Delhi, India. It was in the basement of a building. It was 40 degrees centigrade outside. There was no air conditioning. There were windows, dirt floor, benches with no backs, and he was standing room only for a Toastmasters club. And we're worried about whether, you know, we've got paper tablecloths or cloth tablecloths. And we're worried about, you know, is the air conditioning right? And is the lighting right? But there are clubs in West Africa that meet under a tree. You know, there's the tree and that's where we meet every week. And they bring their own chairs or benches or sit on the ground because they value the program so much. So the venue can make a difference, but the venue is probably the least important factor for a great Toastmasters meeting. But we care a lot about it here. The time of the meeting, one of the discussions that you're going to have in your clubs, if you haven't already had it, is are we going to stay online? Are we going to return to in person? Are we going to try hybrid and see how that works? Because hybrid's hard. Okay, I encourage you to try it, but no, it's hard. And you're going to have to do a lot of tweaking and really spend a lot of energy. And there's some great resources out there. That's not what this session's about. But understand what could be done to convince someone to stay. And it's too late in April. It might be too late in March. These are ongoing conversations. So there's a really interesting statistic. I'm in another organization some of you may be familiar with called Business Network International, BNI. And it generates a lot of business for my company. But what they say, now they have a much higher membership fee. Okay, it's about $600 US for a 1-year membership, plus a new member fee, and you got your local meeting fees. So the average member is spending well over $1,000 a year to be a part of BNI. They say that the average member makes up their mind in the first 60 days whether they're going to renew. But they stick around to get the value out of the money. So retention, renewal, especially with new members, starts the day they put their application in. Getting them engaged early. And millennials, Generation Z, whatever the next generation is going to be called. One thing that's very interesting with that generation is they're not patient to be given opportunity. Now it's not that they're not loyal. The reputation they've got is they're not loyal. All right. People of my father's generation would work for a company for 35 years and never get a promotion, and they would be okay with that. That's not the 45 and under group anymore. If you're not going to involve them, they're going to go find someplace that will. So get them on committees, get them on projects, ask them to do something, even if it's small, get them involved. These are the things that can convince people to stay that don't take a lot of effort on your part or a lot of change to the club. Now, here's what's interesting. Rate your club. These are members who left Toastmasters. The highest rating was the meeting setting. They're not complaining about where we're meeting. They're not complaining about the value for the dollar or the organization or the professionalism. But participation and goal achievement under 4. Why do people join Toastmasters? To participate and to achieve goals. And when I see a rating under 4 on a 5-point scale, I get concerned. Now, networking, we're not a networking organization, so I would not expect us to be rated highly. But look at that. We're not a networking organization. We're an educational organization, and participation and goal achievement are scored the same as networking from people who leave. What does that suggest to you? Anyone? Any observations on that?
We're not following through with our VP Eds. It's making sure that everybody's participating in their speeches and making sure they're on the leadership team of the agenda.
Mm-hmm. That's an area that we can definitely improve. Gail and then Rob.
So many clubs end their meeting with, okay, who wants to do this next week? Who wants to do that? And only the people that have planned ahead, which are few, get their names into the list. And it's not the right way to do that. We have to have a long range goals.
Yeah. Rob and then Jean.
I think it's important that, if possible, at every meeting, each person, guest and member, participate, get an opportunity to participate.
Yeah, I see clubs call on evaluators to do table topics. You know, and now unless everybody's already gone, you know, you leave your evaluators and your contest and your Toastmaster of the day and your speakers to last on table topics. Right, Jean?
You don't get new members started with a real good message on how to run pathways and get them doing a role as soon as they put their face in the door, especially if they're young.
Absolutely. We have a VP Ed at a club near mine, and his first conversation when he sits down with a new member to talk about their goals, he's like, okay, when can I put you on the schedule for your icebreaker?
Exactly.
And if it's more than 8 or 10 weeks out, he's like, no, that's too long. You need to get started.
We have a master's student. We have a master's student who's going to do her icebreaker next week because she has to do something in her master's program that calls for the same thing.
Yeah. Now, Gail, I do want to comment on the clubs that plan who's speaking when and the clubs that volunteer. From a achievement standpoint, there's no difference in the clubs. Both can work well, but the VP Ed has to do the job, and the VP Ed has to be willing to say, you know, Ethel, you've spoken 3 out of the last 8 weeks. No, we're not going to put you on next week. I know you want to speak again, but you know, we've got to give other people opportunities. You've got to be willing to make those commitments. So either one can work, okay, if the VP of Ed is responsive and responsible. Gail.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm finding that that's not the case in many, many clubs. It's just a matter of getting some names down and saying it's over.
Yeah, and that's the VP of Ed, in my opinion, abrogating some of their responsibility. So it's not whether it's a volunteer or whether it's you're assigning speakers. It's taking your responsibility to make sure that all members are getting the opportunity to meet their goals.
It makes people not want to show up, and people don't show up after.
Yeah, a club should not be one person's domain to work out their problems through giving speeches to others. Okay, and sometimes some people feel that way. Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. So one issue I noticed with new members is because of pathways, and it's not tangible, and we have a lot of generally older members sometimes. The competent communicator manual was great. You hand it to them, they have something substantial, and they can flip through it and easily just go through step by step. I think that is missing for initial first members, even if it's a subset of that. Yeah.
So print the icebreaker project from the Toastmasters website and give it to them, and then say, hey, let's get your first speech done, and then we'll get you in and do that. And I know many clubs do that, and I'm not going to say that that's wrong, okay? Because the most important thing is to get them engaged. So, you know, what's interesting is we've offered the path for sale. You know, there's an initial charge because it costs us money to produce that on paper. We've sold less than 2,000 printed paths total in 3 years. Okay, so our members they don't like the paper so much that they're willing to spend the money for it. Okay, that's what the numbers are saying. So I understand what you're saying, Paul. There are solutions to work around that. Talk to Bram, talk to your program quality director. There are ways to work around, and one of the easiest things to do is print out that icebreaker speech and give it to them right away. And then they've got something tangible to get started. And then once they're started, then we can move from there. Jean.
Take them into the learn more part on the under pathways, and then walk them all through that. And right at the bottom is the icebreaker speech, and walk them through that, but do it on screen share. You 2 people on screen share, and you can walk them right through that and say, you can start that even before you come a member. You can take them through that part. You can do it as their first time they're a guest.
Yeah.
And get them introduced to what's on the website.
And just so you know, for those who aren't aware, Toastmasters is undertaking a very significant project to refresh both the content and the display of pathways, which is going to include a mobile application for pathways, and which is actually more requested than print material right now. So both of those are coming. That's not a quick project, but it is underway, and we're investing a lot of money in that project. So you'll see some changes coming up there. You already saw the first part of it with the changes in the level 1 program based on member feedback. So we're going to go ahead and go on to our next section. And I'm going to ask you, is retention the right model? Okay, so for the Big Bang Theory fans out there, I brought model trains. But is retention the right model? Not every organization uses retention as a model. Now, most for-profit organizations use customer retention as a model. And I in my business, customer retention is critical. Okay. And in most businesses, customer retention is critical. But let's think about universities, and universities use two very specific models. They use a graduation model. That's how they measure their effectiveness. What percentage of people who joined graduated with a degree? Okay, technical colleges, with their certificate. All right, so if you go talk to a university almost anywhere in the world, they'll tell you their number of people who graduate. And one of the things that's really important for athletes, at least in the United States, is the graduation rate for athletes has to be on par for the graduation rate of the students as a whole. And in most colleges, it actually exceeds it. All right, because they've got tutoring and all sorts of opportunities available for them. But the graduation model is really important. So what would Toastmasters look like if every member who left had at least completed a level 1 or a level 2 Toastmasters award? I've been a member of the Boy Scouts of America as a volunteer for 26 years. We know that if we get young men and women now to first class in the first year, they stay a member 3 to 4 times as long. Okay, 3 to 4 times as long. They stay members. If we get them to go to summer camp their first year, which is getting them engaged right away, they stay 3 to 4 times as long. That's a graduation model. We're saying these are it's not how long you stay, it's what you accomplished while you were there. And there's also the alumni model with universities, at least in most of the West. How many of you are part of your alumni association for your secondary, your college education? I get emails and letters every year from where I graduated from college for both my undergraduate and my master's degree. They call me and ask me to talk to prospective students. They call me and ask me to donate money, buy tickets for sports events. I'm still a part of that organization, even though I haven't attended there in 20 years. And I'm still useful to them for bringing members in. And there are former Toastmasters who have brought in many members. There's a gentleman who lives about 20 minutes from me. He hasn't paid Toastmasters dues in 15 years. And in that time, he has sent over 200 people to visit a Toastmasters club, and over 100 of them have joined. Now, a retention renewal model doesn't capture that, but alumni model does. And we do reach out to our alumni twice a year. Anyone who's been a Toastmaster, as long as they haven't said, leave me alone, don't contact me, we send that information out to them at least twice a year. And then there's the Weight Watchers model. The Weight Watchers model is really interesting, and there's some parallels to the Toastmasters model. So how many of you are familiar with Weight Watchers? All right, so you go to Weight Watchers and you lose those pounds or those kilos, depending on what world. It's the same weight, just we label it differently based on where we are in the world. Okay, so we lose that weight and we feel really good. And we stay engaged for a little while because right after we lose it, we're really motivated to keep that weight off. And then over time, we drift away. Okay, how many of you have had that issue? I've had it. Lose the weight, and then a few years, oh, wait, I put it back on. And then it's harder to get off the second time, right? Absolutely. Well, Weight Watchers knows this. And what they find is they have people who've come back to Weight Watchers program 5, 6, 7, 10 times, where they came, then they left, then they came, then they left, then they came back and they left, and they brought other people. But every time they decide, hey, I want to get serious about losing weight again, they come back to Weight Watchers. And we have that parallel in Toastmasters. We have people who join Toastmasters early in their career. They get something out of it, and then they leave, and they come back when they have another need. And we see this across the organization. So the Weight Watchers model is something else that we can really consider. So where do you need to focus? Now, Rob talked about a lot of these earlier in his presentation. He did a great job. He was talking about member experience and guest experience and engagement. So the member experience, we've talked about some of those factors that are in there. There are motivators. things that want to get you say, engage and moving on, getting involved. There are demotivators, which mean even if they're perfect, the meeting setting is a demotivator. Even if it's perfect, it doesn't make a difference. It's like salary at work. If you get a bump in your salary, the feel good lasts for about 30 days, and then that's the normal. And if it goes down, you get upset, even though you're still making more than you were a year ago. Okay, you get upset because you got used to the new things. So that's what we call a demotivator. All right, so there are motivators and demotivators in all of these. And we've talked a lot of these, so I don't need to go into them a lot. But the member experience is really important. All right. It is far cheaper for us to keep members than to find new ones. That's true in business. That's true in nonprofits. Okay. The effort to find a new member is substantial. It's a lot easier to keep the members that you have. All right. So make sure that they feel good, deal with those conflicts that occur, address them. Then they don't become something that weighs on people. Are they getting opportunities to speak? Are they getting opportunities to evaluate? Are we helping them meet their goals? Now, the guest experience is really important. And one thing Rob sort of alluded to earlier was, why do people join Toastmasters? And there's a whole lot of reasons, and we can talk about those, but it boils down, in my opinion, to two things. So one is somebody has a perceived need, and they're asking a question when they come to Toastmasters: can Toastmasters help me with this need? Now, I did not join Toastmasters to become a better speaker. I joined Toastmaster to become a better evaluator, because I was going to lose my job because of an evaluation I'd given, well, a series of them, to staff, and that were all very pointed about what you did wrong, and there was no positive and supportive in them. Okay. And someone told me I should join Toastmasters to learn to give positive, supportive evaluations. So that's why I went, and that's why I joined. Now, certainly I've become a better speaker, but that's not why I joined. But I had a perceived problem. Okay, I had a need. And I went there and I said, hey, yeah, well, from what I see, I think this group can help me. But there was a second question, and this is perhaps the bigger question. It's, do I fit in with this group of people? Do I feel comfortable? Are guests greeted? Are they looked after? Does somebody explain to them? Does somebody sit with them, explain to them what's going on in the meeting? Is there follow-up after? And Rob talked about this, Bram talked about this. Did somebody ask them to join? I was on an international director visit to a district, and I went to a club, and this club had not had a member join in 9 months. And I show up, and there's 7 visitors at the meeting. And I'm like, this is amazing. This is great. Great job. And I'm like, what'd you guys do? Oh, nothing. We have a lot of visitors every week. And so I started talking to some of the visitors, and I talked to this one gentleman, and I'm like, so what do you think? He goes, oh, I love this group. I love this group of people. I've been coming here for the last 4 months. And I was like, you've been coming to a meeting for 4 months? Why haven't you joined yet? Well, no one asked me to. And so I took him over to the VP of membership, and I said, do you have an application for him? Because we'd love you to be a part of this club. He filled it out each time. So I was talking to the club officers after the meeting. They didn't want to pressure people. You're not pressuring, you're giving them an invitation to join a program that has helped people, hundreds of thousands, millions of people, change their lives. Or some of you may feel that Toastmasters changed my life. I don't care which way you look at it, but people's lives are changed through their participation in Toastmasters, no matter how you look at it. And you're not going to invite somebody to participate in that because of pressure. It's not pressure. They're visiting, they're expecting to be invited to join. And there are some people who will not join because of cultural reasons unless they are invited. So don't let that happen. And I like the 3 visit rule. Now, engagement. We talked a little bit about engagement earlier, but engagement is really important. And we used to have this award in one of my clubs. It was called a well-rounded Toastmaster, and it was tracking which roles you had done. and make it anyone who completed all the roles during the year got their well-rounded Toastmaster for the year. One of the districts I've done, some of you may be familiar with the Triple Crown Award. A lot of districts do that for people who earn 3 educational awards. Well, in this district, that's not what they do it for. They do it for accomplishment in education, recruiting, and in leadership. So in order to get their Triple Crown, you have to earn an educational award. You have to take a leadership position at the club or district, and it does not have to be an officer position. It can be running an event. It can be contest master. You have to take a leadership position, and you have to sponsor a member to Toastmasters. And that's their Triple Crown Award. I kind of like that award, because it's engaging them in all aspects of the program. They're getting involved in speaking, they're getting involved in leadership, and they're getting involved in sustaining the club. So you have to engage your members. Don't wait. Don't fall prey to that. Well, what can they offer? They're brand new. I've been to clubs who say, oh, well, until you get a level 1 or it used to be a CC, you can't evaluate. All right. The best evaluation I've ever gotten in my life was from somebody who had been in Toastmasters for 3 weeks, hadn't even done his icebreaker, volunteered to do that. And he just got up and he reacted to my speech. He wasn't following the book. He's like, this just didn't work for me. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. No one's ever said that to me before. I started asking people, like, yeah, it doesn't work for me either. Well, why has no one ever said this? Well, it's not in the, it's not in the guideline. It's not in the feedback. He just reacted without the prisms that we put on. And we need those new ideas. So get members engaged. And the Distinguished Club program is a good way to track if members are engaged. And one of the statistics I love to look at is not so much, how many awards you get at a certain level, but I love to look at what percentage of your members in the club earned at least 1 award. Level 1, 5, it doesn't matter. They earned an award. Even if it's the Toastmasters mentoring program, they earned an award. This year, they accomplished a goal. And what we know psychologically, without a doubt, is that people who achieve goals in an organization stay longer. Without a doubt. So focus, are you making sure that Toastmasters, that the mission is working for everybody in your club? Our mission doesn't say where some members are given the opportunity. It's where all members are given the opportunity. Now we've got some time for Q&A. Bram, you let me know when we need to cut the time, but I'm glad to answer any questions that you guys might have up until the time when Bram says we need to stop.
Well, we have at 8:30, we can stretch till then. There's a question, a very interesting question actually in the chat. Paul, you had these questions. Why don't you just come on and say what that question is rather than me reading it out for you? Paul, are you there?
I'm here. Yes. Thank you, Bram.
Go ahead.
It's basically a way to try to get people engaged, especially new members in this case with that question. And because we've had a few members in the last year who came in because of COVID actually, and then left or leaving, and some of them just we didn't have the engagement with them. Plus we've never met them, but we didn't have them committing to a lot of roles. It was hard to do that, not being able to hit them, right? Just teasing, but so basically I was just considering potentially enticing them to do that by having an extra fee. This is sort of two-faceted, an extra fee to then give them a credit if they actually accomplish certain things towards year 2. And that may sound a bit off, but also it's also related to the fact that there's been a correlation between getting a class that is expensive versus, you even highlighted that earlier, versus one that is inexpensive, and realizing this thing costs a lot, I better do something to make value for myself. So that's it, really. So.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any group doing that. I do know clubs that have new member fees, which is permitted under the club constitution. I do know there are a lot of different programs they use in the Philippines, for example. The Philippines has a very low standard of living. The average hourly wage is under $2 US per hour, okay, for an hourly worker. They collect their members' Toastmasters fees monthly, and then at the end of the 6 months, they pay the term. All right, and Bangladesh, there's some in Nepal, some of these lower economic countries do similar things. So there's a lot of different strategies. One of the clubs I belong to, they collect all year's dues at the beginning of the year, and they just pay that. They go in, they pay, and then the next day they go in and pay the next 6 months, which you can do if you're an officer in the system. I do know that we're going to have members self-pay later this year, and one of the things that they are looking at is, allowing people to pay for a year at a time. I don't know that they're going to allow monthly payments, but they are going to allow people, they're definitely looking to allow people to pay a year at a time, which would certainly help with this. But it's an interesting idea. If you got a specific program, Paul, you can email it to board contact at toastmasters.org. I'll put that in the chat, and the board can review that. But I don't think there's anything that would prevent a club from doing that. Okay. We got Frank
That's
and
amazing.
Bhushan, and then Rob.
There's Julie as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
This is maybe beyond your scope, Matt, but do you see hybrid working? We're really struggling right now with hybrid clubs. Both the physical and the hybrid are not working out.
And like I said earlier, hybrid takes additional work. So my home club has been meeting in hybrid format for 15 months now, 14 months. We started back March 1st last year. All right. We've had 15 room layouts in that time before we finally got the room laid out the best way for our space. And if we move, it's going to take us probably 5 or 6 to get it right again. So we're not looking to move. One of the things is the camera has got to be positioned right next to whatever screen you're using for the online participants. So because people will look at the screen when they're talking. And if the camera's to the side, everyone's looking at their face. And you think, well, I'm looking at them, I'm making eye contact with those on screen, and you're not. So we use 2 timers. We have 1 timer online and 1 timer in the room in case something happens online. And the people who are speaking from online can't see the timer in the room very easily. We also have a camera view that's just the room, not on the speaker, but it's on the participants in the room. So we've done a lot of work to make that work. It takes extra effort to engage people. Now, what's interesting is we have not had a single new member join to the online portion in those 14 months. And we've had over a dozen people join in person. So there's about 70% of our members right now, between 65 and 70%, who have never known in-person only meetings because of our retention numbers. So it's going to be a transition back. Hybrid can work. My personal feeling is that it will be the smallest number of clubs in 3 or 4 years. That in-person will be our largest number, online will be our second largest number, and then especially in community clubs, hybrid will be your smallest. Now, hybrid and corporate works very well because they've got the equipment, they've got the room set up, they're used to these meetings being hybrid. So we're going to see what happens, but we've got 16,000 laboratories out there to learn lessons from. So yeah, Frank, it can work, but it takes work. It doesn't just happen. And we've got 90 years of experience, over 90 years of experience running in-person meetings. So I think we got Bhushan, then Rob, then Julie.
Thank you, Matt. My question is that different people join Toastmasters for different reasons. For some, it could be as basic as trying to learn English, to others who might want to do network, to others who even might want to do stage speakers, or some people want to be coaches. And if you are a experienced Toastmaster or a DTM, you know the Pathways program, you can guide the people based on what aspirations they have. But the question I have is, did Toastmaster do a demographic analysis of what kind of people and how does the program connect to each of them?
Yeah, we have basically 5 main markets in Toastmasters. So we have the mid-career professional is one of them. The international business person is another one. The student is one. Self-help is one of our biggest people who are into self-help are in it, but we don't advertise to them because they find us on their own. So we're not going to spend money advertising to them. But the international business person, for example, tends to be between 30 and 45 years old, is working for a multinational company, and is often English as a second or third or fourth language. All right. So we know those, and they tend to be highly educated with a lot of master's degrees. All right. Over 70% of our Toastmasters members speak more than one language. It's incredible the number of languages our members speak. So yes, but it's more than that. Is your club needs to know who you are. So there's one thing to be a Toastmasters club, and that's great. But who are you as a Toastmasters club? So my home club, we are designed for business people. We run a super tight ship, 12 to 1 on Tuesdays at lunch at a restaurant. In 11 years, we have been more than 1 minute late closing that meeting 3 times. 3 times. If somebody goes 31 seconds over time, we clap them off. Okay. We drown them out if we have to. And we had a visitor who goes, well, that's rude. And 3 people in the club looked around and said, well, it's rude to go over time. Okay. So it depends on how you look at it. We don't have time to do that because we can get 3 speakers, 3 evaluations, and a minimum of 3 table topics in that hour meeting. So we're set up to do that. And we know who we are. A club that wants to help people improve their, I don't say learn English, but improve their English. We're not an English school, but we can certainly help people improve their English. They need to be set up differently. A club for students needs to be set up differently. Just little subtle changes. So know who you are as a club. And that's even more important than Toastmasters knowing who that is. And what's interesting in my business, I started with a new marketing person a little over a year ago. All right. And she told me, oh, you got to niche your business. And I'm like, well, I don't want to turn people down. She goes, I didn't say turn people down. I said, niche your marketing. And what's interesting is I niche my marketing that I have been getting more clients in that niche, and I've been getting as many clients out of that niche as in that niche. Okay. Because people are like, well, if you can work with lawyers, you can work with us. So we've niched on legal for mine. And there are Toastmasters clubs that have very specific subgroups that they're marketing to, and they understand the needs of that market and what Toastmasters can do for them. So think about a religious organization that sponsors a Toastmasters club. There are thousands of them around the world. They're using Toastmasters as part of their training to meet the mission of their religious organization. All right. Okay. So know who you are. All right. We've got Rob and then Julie. Rob.
Yes, thank you, Matt. Yes, we've had success at our club, but we have had a couple of people, for the life of me, I can't figure out why, who have paid their membership and don't come. Like they've ghosted us. And I've tried emailing, I've tried calling them, and nothing. And I can't understand it. If why pay if you're not going to come?
Gym memberships, 22% of people who pay a gym membership never come in and do a workout after their first time when they signed up. 22% never do that. People sign up for college, never go to classes. We were just looking at some statistics in other industries of these similar things. So there is something in human behavior that says somebody's wants to do something, is willing to spend the money to do it, but they're not willing to put the time and effort in. And if anyone ever tells you that time is not more valuable than money, that human behavior proves them wrong. Because they just wasted their money. Happily wasted their money.
Mhm.
Okay, so I always tell people, focus on who is in the room, not who is out. And someone just commented, oh, I think it was Ethel, some people are deathly afraid to speak. They are deathly afraid. Okay, I mean, we had a woman almost pass out. I had a man throw up the second he got done speaking. All right, some people are that seriously afraid. It's like me with snakes. Okay, just keep them away.
Then don't join, right?
Well,
Then don't join.
but they think that they want the experience, and they're willing to take that first step. And they say the first step is the hardest step, and paying your money is not the first step. The first step is actually getting in and doing something in the club. And that's where it happens. So it's going to happen. It's going to continue to happen. That's why people go, oh, 100% of our members were engaged with the traditional program. Like, no, they weren't. Because every club I've talked to has got members just like that, Rob. Julie.
Thanks very much, Matt. I was really going to say pretty much what Rob said about people signing up, paying, and then not pitching up. We have an annual fee at our club. So people pay the full fee for the year and they're in for 3 months and then we don't see them again. Like, how can we lose you if you pay for it? But you've explained that, so thank you very much.
Yeah, and I think there's part of that also in my mind that comes down to that there's a percentage that you can't do anything about. All right. What you want to make sure is that the percentage you can do something about, you're doing something about it. So focus your energy where you can focus your energy. All right. We have a rule in my club, and every club I've ever been in has had a similar rule. If somebody misses more than 2 or 3 meetings in a row, it varies by club, and they didn't tell us ahead of time, they didn't send a note that they weren't going to be there, a club officer has to pick up the phone and call them. Not email, not text, not WhatsApp, not WeChat, not Zoom. Pick up the phone and call them and go, hey, Bob, we've missed you the last couple of weeks. Are you okay? Just checking in on them. No guilt. Just checking in. Are you okay? We've missed you. Because the minute that people feel that they're not, remember what I said about people join because they feel like they fit in with that group of people. If you miss a couple meetings in a row and nobody reaches out to you to check on you, do you feel like you fit in with that group of people anymore? Maybe not. Then it's easier to miss the next week. It's easier to mix the week after that. And then pretty soon Toastmasters is out of your mind. So I think it's really important that you make sure that you're in contact with your members. People's goals changed. I never thought when I joined that I would, in 4 months, become president of Toastmasters International, 20 years later. But that's going to happen. 19 years after I joined, I'm going to be president of an international organization. It was nowhere in my goals. I don't think Brom intended to be club growth director when he joined the Toastmasters Club.
Sure he did.
Now we do have people who do say they joined Toastmasters to become world champions. So some of our world champions have said, that's why I joined. I joined because I wanted to do that. Well, that only one person a year gets to do that. Okay. And only one person a year gets to do what I'm about to do, which is to be our international president. That's not a realistic goal for most people. But getting better at speaking, getting better at leadership, having a safe place to practice ideas in, those are all realistic goals. So make sure that you control what you can control. That's my message to everybody. And that's my message in all walks of life. In my business, in IT, in exercise and sports, you control what you can control. And that's it. And don't try to control others. Don't try to control things that are out of your control. Just do what you can do. And I think that's really what it comes down to in Toastmasters. So I just want to leave you with one thought. And several years ago, I was at a workshop run by the late Bob Proctor, who's from Canada, Toronto, in Scottsdale, Arizona. And during lunch, the MC got up and said, all right, ladies and gentlemen, over lunch, I want you to go out on the streets of Scottsdale, Arizona, find a stranger and get them to go to lunch with you and come back and tell us the stories. Now I am not a shy guy. I don't mind doing this. And I'm the type of person, if you give me an assignment, I'm a get her done kind of guy. I'm going to get that done. And so there I am sitting in front of a Starbucks in Scottsdale, Arizona, trying to get a stranger to go to lunch with me. And it was not going well. I walk up to somebody and say, hey, will you go to lunch with me? And I don't know if they thought I was asking them on a date, trying to get them to sell some multi-level marketing program or convert them to my religion, but they were like running away from me. And I'm sitting there going, I am going to be the only one out of these 800 people in this session. I'm going to be the only one who comes back and didn't get a stranger to go to lunch with me. And that is not acceptable. And I was just super frustrated. And all of a sudden, something my mom used to tell me popped into my head. And she goes, so Matt, in whatever you're doing, find the purpose. Now that's different advice from a lot of people. A lot of people say, find your purpose and then do according to your purpose. No, she said, take your activity and find the purpose in it. And I said, okay, so what can I do? What can I use this opportunity for other than just check off a task? I said, you know what? Let me find a veteran and thank him or her for their service. And I know there are many women who've served, but I wanted to thank someone from the greatest generation, from a World War II veteran. And I sat there, I said, well, what does a World War II veteran look like to me? Kind of looked in my mind a little like Rick's story there. Bald head, a beard, kind of wizened face with the wisdom of the years showing on his face. A cane. I don't think Rick carries a cane. A ball cap. The word Arizona flipped across my mind, but I'm in Arizona. And I stood up, pictured this man, walked around the corner, and Brahm, he was right in front of me. Almost the exact man I had pictured. With a cane, wizened face, and a ball cap that said USS Arizona. And I walked up to him, I said, sir, would you do the honor of going to lunch with me? And he looked at me and goes, well, why? Now, this is a good start. He's not running away from me. And I said, well, I noticed your cap and I made a decision a few minutes ago. I wanted to thank a veteran for his service. So would you please, let's go in the restaurant and have some food. And he looked at me, goes, well, my mama told me never turn down a free lunch. So what the hell? So we go in the restaurant, I start talking. The guy's name was Bill. And after we order our food, we started talking, and Bill, he was just this great gentleman. And I asked him, I said, Bill, I noticed your cap, USS Arizona. Did you know somebody on the Arizona? It's like, know someone? Hell, boy, I was on the Arizona. I knew all of them. I'll never forget that morning. I was on deck for assembly when the sirens went off, and I looked out and I saw a squadron of Zeros coming right for us. Because the next little bit was just, it was chaos. There were torpedoes in the water. The stack blew up behind me when the munitions got hit. And I got thrown into the water. And as I was sitting there treading water, I watched my ship go down to the bottom of Pearl Harbor. Finally, a boat came and got me out of the water. And I heard that the Utah had gone down too, and that there were people inside banging, trying to get out, and no one could get to them. I lost 2,100 of my fellow soldiers that day. I'll never forget it. Finally, after what seemed like forever, we started chatting again, and the waiter came over and he brought the bill. And I picked it up. Bill reached out, he snatched it out of my hands. I said, Bill, I asked you to go to lunch with me. I've got this. He goes, I know what you said. So what? So I honestly said the first thing that came to mind, well, you know, Bill, my mama told me never turn down a free lunch. I almost missed one of the most heartwarming, endearing moments of my life because I was focused on a task and I didn't understand the assignment. The assignment was not to go out and fill out a check mark. The assignment was to go out and connect with another human being.
Mm.
How many times have I done that before? How many times do I still do that? I try not to. My encouragement to you as we talk about member retention and renewal and engagement, these are not tasks. These are all about relationships and people. If you pour yourselves into the members in your club, into the members that you are coaching and the members that you are working with, you will both be better for it. So go out and engage with our members, connect with them, and you'll never worry about retention again. Mr. Club Growth Director, back to you.
Whoa, thank you very much. That was such an awesome story. Amazing. Thank you very much. And you know, Matt, my mantra for the past 2 years has been that one word, connect. And this is how we've grown during the crisis clubs and just created just one other club, community club, 20 members in 1 week from launch to charter, and then 8 more members. The word was connect, connect, connect. So that word is very, very powerful, really. It really is. It creates, connect creates a community, and community is what keeps people in retention. So that is the best way of creating community and a club that really grows and thrives. Connect is the word. Thank you so much, Matt. Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the end of our time. Normally we don't have a special guest at the Coach's Corner. I can see others as well who joined us. I want to acknowledge 2 gentlemen here who are our past district governor and past district director. Tony Brashett is the past district governor, 2014-15, I believe, Tony. And Vitaly Forshaw is the past district